I recently competed in a Balatro PvP tournament, and though I didn't perform very well, my friend Jake also participated and ended up winning the entire thing. Meaning he is currently the #1 Balatro PvP player. And though that sounds a little funny, I still wanted to have another test of my skill, so I challenged him to a best of 3 1v1. If you're unfamiliar with the Balatro multiplayer mod, it puts players head to head on the same seed, and each boss blind is replaced with a PvP blind where you face off and try to beat the other player's score. First person to run out of lives loses. This 1v1 starts with a very tame seed, so in the small blind I play as I normally do and go for a high scoring flush. A good rule of thumb is to go for a flush with at least 40 scoring chips, and it should get you through the small blind in one hand. In the first shop, I always check the buffoon pack in case there's an overpowered joker early on, and in this case, I find Astronomer, which allows me to purchase the Celestial pack for free, giving me an extra level to flushes. I then sell Astronomer and pick up Rough Gem for some early econ. For the rest of the ante, I play my leveled up diamond flushes and move on to the boss blind with only an econ joker. Jake, on the other hand, skipped the buffoon pack and headed to the boss blind in the same position, but with a level 1 flush. This allowed me to beat him out playing 3 flushes and earning some money along the way with Rough Gem. I was now in the lead 1-0, and with the next shop not having any scoring jokers, I picked up KS the Clown for some free rerolls and moved on. However, this would affect Jake a lot more, as without any scoring jokers still, the small blind was more of a challenge than normal. Though I was now in a more comfortable position up 2-0, neither of us still had any scoring jokers. So in the next shop, I picked up Blue Joker for chips and Raised Fist for malt, meaning I could comfortably get by playing whatever I wanted. Jake played a bit differently and found a Fibonacci, which could have a chance for winning, but in the face-off, instead of going for scoring, he looked for diamond flushes to earn some extra money, sacrificing his second last life to do so. In the following shop, I used my reroll to find Seeing Double, which was the first X malt of the run. With this setup, the small and big blinds were a breeze, though I had nothing worth taking in the shops, so I moved on to what could be the last blind of this round with a very simple build, allowing me to play pairs to score roughly 5,000 chips a hand. By this point, Jake had been able to put together a decent build with Fibonacci and Onyx Agate being multiplied by Ramen. With this build, he was able to score 13,000 chips in one hand, but unfortunately that was the only hand he could play, finishing off the first match with me as the winner. This next match is going to show the importance of every decision you make in the early game. And it starts very quick with a blunder in not drawing a high enough flush, meaning I had to play 2 hands to beat the blind, already putting me $1 behind. Entering the first shop, we both open the buffoon pack and take Mystic Summit for some early malt to beat the blinds. The big blind shop is where we finally split paths, with me taking Cloud9 for econ and Jake purchasing the Overstock voucher, which reveals mail-in rebate. We were now facing off in the PvP blind, both using Mystic Summit for scoring, but with Jake going for the extra money with mail-in rebate, I was able to play better hands and take the round. I was now up 1 life heading into the second ante, but Jake was much more set up with $27 along with the Overstock voucher. And though it doesn't reveal much extra in the first shop, with us both picking up Bloodstone, the following shop has the Order, which gives 3x malt, and in the following shop after that, he finds an Invisible Joker. The fact that I didn't have Overstock along with some poor money management meant I was heading into this face-off at a severe disadvantage. Despite this fact, Jake's score remained very low. Hand after hand, he kept scoring sub 100 points. This because he was again going for econ this round with mail-in rebate, giving me the win and putting me even more ahead. But of course, this meant Jake was going to be heading into the next ante with a big advantage once again. Not knowing this, I played through this ante very safely, making some minor changes along the way. Meanwhile, Jake once again went for econ a bit too hard and managed to lose his 3rd life to the small blind. Though this was unlikely to happen again, as in the next shop he sold mail-in rebate in order to duplicate Bloodstone. Then later managed to find Brainstorm along with Sock and Buskin a few rerolls deep thanks to the money from the lost lives. It was now time for the next face-off with Jake on his last life. But from looking at each of our jokers, I'm sure you can see where this is going. At this point, it was clear that Jake had a strong lead on me and it would be nearly impossible to catch up. Despite this fact, I still had some hope because Jake was on his last life, so I just needed to win 1 round. And though it looks very far off at this point, with enough glass cards and re-triggers, I might have a shot. While a blueprint is a good start, it being in the shop like this means it's also there for Jake, so it does not give me an advantage. But what would help me more than that is a death card and a justice card, meaning I could build towards a flush 5 with all glass. And I decided to do this with the Jack of Hearts. At this point it was still only ante 4, so the small blind was a breeze, and with not seeing anything interesting in the shop, I decided to move on and save some money for interest. The big blind shop started out a bit better with the temperance, putting me in a better position for economy, but with all that money I wasn't able to find anything in the rerolls. With not finding enough improvements this ante, I decided to concede the next face-off as I still had 3 lives to prepare. Though if I did draw better, I may have been able to win this blind, which was a good sign. I then rolled down in the next blind with the money from the face-off and again found nothing of note. I was then able to beat the small blind while saving my glass cards, hoping for something better in this next shop. And it started off strong with the photograph, which gives 2x mult when the first face card is scored. This was a good find, as though it would also work with Jake's build, he had no joker slots to spare, meaning this would bring me one step closer. In the rest of the ante, I was able to do a bit more deck fixing, getting me just a couple of steps off of a winning hand. And even though at this point I did have the possibility of playing 5 glass jacks, I did not have the luck. So I was forced to wait till the next face-off, putting me on my last life. While playing 5 glass cards would be a good hand, it still wouldn't be enough without any retriggers. I would need something else to bring up my score to Jake's level. And idle might just be that thing, though it will take some luck to do so. At this point, I had 5 Jack of Hearts in my deck of 50 cards, meaning there was a 10% chance idle would be on the card I want. But I did have 3 chances at these odds, making it close to a 1 in 3. All I had to do now was hope. During the small blind, it was set to Ace of Diamonds. Then after the small blind, it was set to 7 of Diamonds. And following the big blind with my final chance, it was set to 3 of Diamonds. I now just had to hope that my flush 5 of all glass cards would be enough, and on top of that, have the luck to draw it. And even though I was able to put up a pretty good score with that hand, there's not much you can do. So, to iterate it again, it is very important to maximize your economy and discovery in multiplayer, especially early on, as from one extra reroll, Jake was able to make a build that scored over 400 times higher. The score was now 1-1, meaning whoever took this next match would win. And it started off with a good sign, as I was able to beat the small blind in one hand. Then followed by a very strong first shop, which gave me an econ joker along with acrobat, which worked quite well together. This allowed me to generate $6 per round, though at the cost of the money for my remaining hands. Wanting to save money for interest, I then moved on to the face-off, still with just these first 2 jokers. While Jake was scoring very similar to me, I opted to save my discards for the money this round, and looked for a 4 of a kind to play on my last hand to give me a guaranteed win. But the odds on that were very low, so Jake was able to take my first life. The next shop offered a Mystic Summit, which I opted not to take as it clashed with my delayed gratification. I was able to just beat the small blind after a very close call thanks to Sly Joker, and moved on to the next shop, which gave me an upgrade to straights along with the temperance, which I decided to hold on to for now. I also passed on the flower pot as I didn't want to push my luck too far. In the big blind shop, I finally picked up some mult jokers to give me a better chance in this next face-off. And before readying up, I also picked up a Midas Mask. In the face-off, all I had to do was play as many face cards as I could, and then play a club flush with my final hand. Luckily that was enough, and in the next shop I was able to pick up the order, which would provide an extra 3x malt if I played a straight. Now, having to play a specific hand type, I decided to sell delayed gratification for rocket, as it would be difficult to find straights without any discards. The next shop opened with a loyalty card, which is an okay joker in the base game, but in multiplayer it can be very strong, though difficult to line up. In the big blind, I did my best to look for a straight with as many gold cards in hand as possible. But unfortunately, I couldn't draw it, leaving me with just a 2 pair for my final hand, which luckily was enough thanks to Acrobat. In the next shop, I replaced Midas Mask with 6 cents, as most of my face cards were gold at this point, picked up another level for straights, and purchased the +1 hand size voucher. Starting the face off, I played a 6 to create a Deja Vu, which I later put on a gold queen in order to generate extra money. Then, for my second hand, loyalty card was active, which means it wasn't going to work with Acrobat. So I decided to play my straight here, which scored 33,000 chips. And before I could find any more gold cards, Jake had already played his last hand, so it was on to the next shop, where I picked up Palette, which would give me another increase to my hand size. With this increase to my hand size, I was now able to play a straight and keep up to 5 gold cards in hand. And the next shop would help even more, finding a turtle bean, which gives an additional 5 hand size. With this increase in hand size, I was able to find my gold cards, along with making sure loyalty card would line up with my final hand in the face-off. Now with the 4x from loyalty card, along with the 3x from Acrobat, I was able to easily clear this next face-off and make a lot of money at the same time. With this setup, I was able to easily maintain this strategy and generate a lot of money in the small and big blind of the next ante. But unfortunately, it didn't lead to me finding anything useful in the shops other than some deck fixing. It was now already time for the next face-off, and Jake was on his last life, with this being his build. Though it had a similar amount of X-Malt to mine, it requires Jake to play a straight with all 4 suits, which can be very difficult. For my hand, I had lined up loyalty card to work with Acrobat again, and played a straight for my final hand. And though I was able to play a very strong hand, Jake had 2 red seal glass cards to play in a full house, and though it wouldn't trigger the order, it would give him additional 16x malt. But even with that, it wasn't enough, meaning I won the match, making me the winner of this best of 3. If you're interested in the mod, I'll leave a link to the Discord, which has instructions on how to set it up. Otherwise, I'll see you next time.